You know, one of the things about our studio is that you guys can go as often as you like. You know that? Isn't that awesome? You can go as, you know, our philosophy really is about training. The more you train, the better you get, regardless of what the subject might be. There's so much to learn in Taekwondo, and you just need to do a lot of it, right? Bruce Lee says that he's not worried about the guy that knows 10,000 kicks. He's worried about the guy that can kick one kick 10,000 times. You know what I'm talking about. That's one of his sayings. And that's absolutely true. So how can we practice that much if we only go 1 or 2 times a week? There's a lot of schools that do that. Don't get me wrong. And that's fine. As long as you go home and you go back and practice those 10,000 times on your own. But there's just a lot, right? And so you guys can come as often as you want. Some people ask me, oh, do you ever have a plan or what you're going to teach today? You know, do you have an agenda? Do you ever wonder that? Or do I just shoot from the hip? You know, you ever heard that saying? Maybe not in California, right? Shoot from the hip. Well, meaning that do you just have them? You know, I've been doing Taekwondo for a long time. Started, I would say probably, well, we started our studio in 1993, but I've been teaching Taekwondo in around 1984. I know you guys, maybe Mr. K, you were just born about that time. What was that?
74.
Somewhere on there?
74.
74, yeah. So you're a little boy, right? Anyway, so some of you guys have heard this because you guys can come to as many classes as you want. So yeah, my classes, when I start something, it's usually the same thing throughout the day. So if you stay for one class, it's going to be very similar to the second class and the third class and so forth. And so anyone that was here in the last class, you're kind of hearing the same thing, just kind of saying, right? But that is the beauty of what we do, is that you can do as much as you like. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the 3 kingdoms of Korea, the dynasty. So we have 3 dynasties: the Goryeo dynasty, Baekje dynasty, and the Silla dynasty. And you could think of it like, well, I guess in America we have like 50 dynasties: California, Utah, Arizona. You can think of it like that, I guess. But the Goryeo dynasty was the biggest dynasty, right? They had the biggest group of people. And the Baekje dynasty was a little bit, not as big, smaller, medium size. And the Silla dynasty was the smallest dynasty. And I'm bringing this up because the red belts are doing something called warang, right? Red belts are doing something called warang. And so what is warang? Well, they actually come from the Silla dynasty. The Taekwon-Do warriors, they were elite fighting machines. They were the special forces of the country. They were the best of the best. And if you don't understand that, think of it like in today's term, SEAL number 6 or something, right? The baddest fighting machine. But they had these codes, the Taekwon-Do warrior codes, and I want to just kind of go over it real quickly, right? The first one is be loyal to your king. We don't have kings. Well, in America we don't have kings, but we do have kings around the world. England has a king, right? I don't know who else has a king, but someone else has a king. But in those days, be loyal to your king. So what would that mean in our today's society? Because I think some of the ideas for that Taekwon-Do warrior code, we can apply it today to ourselves. So maybe in the United States, you should be loyal to your president. Absolutely, regardless of your opinion of our president, past, present, future, whatever, right? If we have to go to war, you kind of have to stick with your president, your leader, right? Does that make sense? Or maybe you would look at it from the point of our dojang. So when we talked about be loyal to the king, to our king, could be loyal to your instructor, right? And why is that important? Let's use an example. Can you do 2 martial arts at the same time? Well, we are in America, and you can do whatever you like, right? So can I do Taekwondo and Karate? Well, like I said, we're in America, sure, why not? However, we can come into conflict sometimes. Like for instance, Joseph, he does Taekwondo. Let's say he was doing Karate. I don't know if he does that, but he probably doesn't anyway, right? But let's say he did. So he does Taekwondo and Karate, right? And so there's this tournament, and I go, Joseph, I want you to go and compete for Jews Taekwondo. He says, yes, sir, I'm going to do that. I'm going to compete. We're going to win trophy, right? But then his karate instructor, let's say he was training at Miyagi Karate-Do, right? You've heard of that school? Very famous school, I think. Master Miyagi goes, Joseph, I need you to go to this tournament and I want you to represent Miyagi Karate-Do. And then he's like, what? I was asked by Master Ju to lead. He didn't say that to him. But you see, he's now in conflict. What is he going to do? Because if he says, if he comes to me and says, Master Ju, I'm going to go and represent Miyagi Karate-Do, will I be hurt? Absolutely. I might say, yeah, okay, go. Just don't come back. Because in a way, he's kind of destroyed the loyalty, right? Betrayed the trust. Or he might go to Miyagi. Says, sir, I'm going to go and I can't represent you at this tournament. I'm going to represent Jews Taekwondo. Will he be hurt? Absolutely, he will be hurt. He will say, go, but never come back, right? So you have to make choices sometimes. I've had to make choices as well. I'm not going to go into that one, but I've also had to make choices. So loyalty is important. So be loyal to our king. The second one is to be loyal to your friends. I mean, think about this in the old days. You're the elite fighting machine, and you're going to battle, and you have your friends or your troop on my right, on my left, on my back. Do you count on them to support you just as they count on you to support them? But if you don't support them, right, then you're left alone. And now they have to battle the enemy on their own. So that's also true in today's world. We need our friends. Our friends are going to back us up as long as you guys are doing good things, right? That's also true with bad guys, Bad guys have their friends and they're doing their thing and they've got their back. That's kind of what it is, right? The third one is to be obedient to your parents. I was like, what? These are killing machine guys. Best of the best, right? Be loyal, be obedient to your mom and dad. What's going on here? Well, to give you a little bit of context, these guys were probably around 13, 14 years old. What? How many of you guys are 13, 14? Raise your hand if you're like around that age. Can you imagine? You are like Navy SEALs. You're the best fighter in the country. Today we look at it, it's like, oh, this is a kid. Don't give them any responsibility, right? But that's what it is. And so they had to make a code. Be obedient to your mom and dad because they are still kids. And we can still apply that today, right? Be obedient to your mom and dad. Be respectful to our seniors because they've been around the block a lot longer. They understand more about life in general. You guys have never had children. I have. I understand, right? You've never had a white belt. I have. I understand, right? And so senior people, adults, parents, they have more experience. And so you should listen to them, be obedient to, listen to your parents and your seniors. That's kind of what it's saying. The fourth one is never retreat in battle. Obviously, you're fighting somebody, and sometimes you might have to retreat and regroup and go back, right? But in general, you don't want to retreat. If you want to be successful, and let's bring it back to today's life. If you want to be successful, you cannot play it safe. You've got to attack. You cannot retreat. You've got to go for it. Successful people they take chances. They don't play it safe. That's what it's kind of saying. Don't retreat just because it was hard, yes, but that's where your big gains come from. Not when it's easy. You play it safe and then don't expect a lot. People that start up companies are taking a huge risk. They can either be very successful or completely broke. Or you just go and work at Apple, there's nothing wrong with that either, right? Make $200,000, $300,000, okay. But if you want to be that Elon Musk, want to be that one of those guys, then you got to take chances. But there's big risk. But when you decide to do that, never retreat. Move forward. And the last one is to make a just kill. That's kind of weird. So what was that rule all about? Well, remember the Taekwon-Do warriors. This is old, very long. This is a long time ago. They didn't have guns. They didn't have machine guns. They didn't have a tank. They had basic weapons like a bow and arrow, knife, sword, right? They didn't have today's modern medicine. So when they're in a battlefield, people don't just die. I mean, you do if you cut their head off or maybe stab them in the heart. But in general, it's not the case. I mean, today we have modern medicine. We have technology. You can shoot people multiple times and they might still make it because we can bring them back. Sumner's like, what? What are you talking about? Bring them back. It's true, right? Because we have that ability. In the old days, they didn't have that. You got cut, and maybe you cut your limbs or whatever. It's not like they're bleeding out, but they actually just lay there and waiting for them to die. They die from infections and bacteria. So it's not necessarily they got killed by the sword. I mean, it was, but it's not the way. And so if you're in battle, make a just kill. There's no way you were going to save them. So put them out of their misery is what it is. That's making a just kill. So how do we apply that today? We're not on the battlefield. And in the battlefield today, we can save lots of people's lives. They might have lost a leg or an arm, or they might have lost something, but we can make them go another day, right? Well, a just kill could be maybe in a corporation where another corporation trying to acquire them. They don't want to be acquired. They have what they call the poison pill. And when a company does that, it just ruins their company and nobody wants to acquire them. You could call that a just kill, I guess. Have you ever heard that? You do? Oh. That's because he's an adult and you guys aren't. Anyway, so that's the Taekwon-Do warrior. And I wanted to bring this idea about this idea on the warrior, right? So there's this book called The Art of War. And this book is actually required reading for Japanese businessmen. You go, the Art of War? What does that have to do with business? It's the strategy and the ideas about war. Because the war is not on the battlefield there, but the war is in the boardroom, in the corporate office. So they wanted all of the Japanese businessmen to read this book to understand this idea. And there's this saying in the book, I think it's interesting. I don't know the exact quotes. It's something like this. If you want to be a warrior, you've got to act like the warrior. You got to look like the warrior. You got to train like the warrior. Even though you're not the warrior, if you do those things, you will become the warrior. Okay, but you guys aren't like warriors in that way, right? But we can still think of it today. If you guys all have an idea what a black belt is? Yes? I mean, we have black belts here. Mr. K over there, he's wearing a white belt, but he has an idea what a black belt is, and you don't even have to tell me what it is. I'm going to guess they're disciplined, they're respectful, they're awesome, they're physically fit, they can break lots of boards, they can do patterns, they can do amazing stuff. I'm guessing. That's what you're thinking, right? Maybe, I don't know. And so when we think of it in those terms, right? You have an idea what a black belt is. Well, that also applies. The same idea applies for us as black belts. If you want to be a black belt, look like a black belt. Act like a black belt. Train like a black belt. Even if you're a white belt or blue belt or green belt or red belt. If you just do that, you will probably be a black belt. You will be the black belt. You don't have to wear a black belt. We have students, and I go, that kid, that student there, he's got the black belt attitude. He's a black belt. Not like some of these other guys who might be high rank. Do you understand? And I've been thinking about this. I was like, wow, who should test for black and who can? We have requirements. It's easy. You know how to do the kicks. You know how to do the patterns. You know how to do sparring. You've done all this and you've done that. And that's true. But does that make you a black belt? Does it make us good enough? It always makes me think about those things. And I look at are we the best? Because everyone says we're the best. You go down the street down there, they say they're the best. You go to that school, they say they're the best. We say we're the best. But how can we prove that who's the best? Well, I guess one way is competition. We had 30 people on this last World Championship that was on Team USA. Out of 70. That was like almost half of Team USA was Juice Taekwondo. Can you believe that? Does that make us the best? I don't know. It says something though. But when you come back from the World Championship and you bring back a lot of medals, you could bring back golds and silvers and bronze, and you competed against some of the best people around the world, can you say you're the best? No, probably can say you're probably one of the best. I would say that, right? But that's just competition. All the people out there, they look at it, they just look kicking and punching. Who is the best? That person said they're the best. We're the best. They're the best, right? And so when I think of it, I look at let's look at the students. Do they look like black belts? Are they acting like black belts? What kind of black belts do we have? Right? So think about that. Act like a black belt, train like a black belt, look like the black belt, and then you can be a black belt. So I am kind of looking at okay, if you're not able to do that, if you still are acting and behaving like yellow belts, then you're not a black belt. And so can that be a requirement? I'm thinking that should be a requirement. You've got to behave like a black belt. You've got to act like them. Does that make sense, guys? Yes. And this is true generally in life in general, okay? Not just Taekwondo, but in life in general. If you want to be smart, you hang out with smart people. They do things that not so smart people don't do, like maybe study, right? You want to be athletic, you want to be a jock, go hang out with them. The more you do that, the probability of you becoming a jock or an athletic person is very high. You will become that. If you want to be a bad guy, yeah, you know what to do. Go hang out with bad guys. Because the things that they do will start to rub off on you, and you will start behaving like that, and you will be. That's the reason why your mom and dad wants to know who are your friends. They want to know that you're hanging out with good people. If you know people that have difficulties, that don't have self-control, they don't have respect, they don't have discipline, you should bring them to Taekwondo, because the more they do that, guess what happens? They become like you, right? And when they become like you, would you not say that we can build a more peaceful world? Because Taekwondo isn't about kicking and punching. It's about all the things that we do when we do on the student oath. Build a more peaceful world. We have to have courtesy. We have to have integrity. We have to have perseverance. We have to have self-control. We have to have indomitable spirit. You think bad guys can do that? No. That's why they're bad guys. They don't have courtesy. They don't have integrity. They don't have self-control. That's why they do all that bad stuff. And so Taekwondo is, in a way, very important, not just kicking and punching, right? So think of that. It is kind of cliche. It's a way of life. And so what do black belts get? Now that they're black belts, what else do I get from that? There's more to being a black belt. Because people look at you. They have an idea of what you should be. They expect you to be leaders. I expect all of our guys to be leaders, whether you're a black belt or not a black belt. That's what I'm saying. If you want to be a black belt, act like them. Train like them. Look like them. If you're being a leader, even if you're a blue belt, you're being a leader. You're basically a black belt. I just wanted to share that with you before.